Hi, and welcome to Jeff Shrimpton's One Giant Leap podcast. Today, I've got a trusted colleague, Peter Boolkah, with us. I really respect Peter for his no-nonsense approach to business, and he's had a huge amount of success in the business coaching arena, working with all sorts of really successful businesses. So I'm really excited to have him on the podcast. In fact, I'm so pleased to have him on the podcast. We're going to make it into two. So I want to talk to him about two different subjects. So say hi, Peter.
Well, thank you for having me on, Jeff, and hello, everyone.
So, Peter, we're recording this towards the end of June. I think it's the last day of June today, 2020. So we are, the country and the world are easing out of lockdown, or something. In fact, some of them are going back into it again. So we've had 3 or 4 months of the country being closed down and the world being closed down, and also aware that at the end of this year we've got the Brexit thing coming, and some people might think that that's we're going to be out of the frying pan into the fire. This isn't a political podcast, but that some people might think that. Mm-hmm. And even though the markets are recovering at the moment a little bit, I would have thought that's really a dead cat bounce and not really going to stick. So it would be reasonable to assume that we are heading towards a recession. And some people are suggesting it might be the worst recession we've had for quite some time. We've got to pay all this furloughing money back that's been sent out, and the loans when they hit. And I know that, Peter, you've had experience of working in different types of recession over the years. So that's why I really wanted to talk to you today about working in a recession. So the first question I've got for you really is, we're moving into a recession. Really, what do we need to look out for? What do we need to be mindful of?
Okay, it's not so much moving in the recession. We are in the recession. And if you actually this is the first time ever that the world has completely stopped. So you've got to understand that, yes, the government have been funding in terms of bills like C-bill loans and bounce back loans and furlough money, etc., globally. However, that's an artificial cap. That's a stop inundation on the benefit system. We're in a recession. There is a lack of confidence. And what we've got to do is we've got to really take a look at our business and actually ask ourselves the question, when's it realistically going to sort of bounce back? And when you look at a recession, business, look, the volume's dropped. Yeah, there are going to be the occasional business out there that are doing exceptionally well right now, but a lot of businesses are not. Businesses are going to close. They already start closing. Businesses are going to shift and change the way that they trade. And I think what we've got to do is get out of the waiting room. I see too many businesses not making the decisions. And the successful businesses in the last recession, unfortunately, were the ones that chopped the people early on and actually cut their cloth accordingly. And that's the first thing a business needs to do. You need to cut your cloth. You need to look at your business and ask yourself the question, what does it need to look like coming out? And what do I need to do now to make sure I'm not hemorrhaging cash?
So it's that decisiveness, isn't it? Rather than crossing your fingers and hoping.
And people don't want to make that decision. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's a relationship thing. People have got that sort of strong relationship bond and they don't want to make that decision. And to be honest with you, in my business, I made the decision because the reality is for the last 14 weeks, I've done nothing sort of face-to-face. Everything has been virtual. And I've had clients say to me, well, don't take it personally, but I don't want to come back and see you anymore. So they're prepared to do it virtually. Now, I had an office over 2,000 square feet. I've got rid of the office because I probably will need an office again in the future. But you know what, for the next 2 years, I'm probably not going to need the space. So why would I keep? And it's a big cost to get rid of. I mean, it's costing $6,000 a month to keep it going. But it's that decisiveness of getting rid of something that I was very attached to, but knew the reality was it wasn't going to be needed.
It's those emotional ties, isn't it? The emotional tie to maybe the ego of having an office, a nice big plush office, but also those emotional ties to employees that might need to go. And I know that lots of business owners feel very responsible for the mortgages and the families that work for them and that have committed to working with them. What would you say to those people that are really thinking along those lines and taking responsibility for other people's income in that way.
Okay, you've got to look at your business, and and I had this conversation with a client the other day who employs over 140 people, and the reality is we only need around 60. So they're around 85% down, which is a lot of people to be down. I mean, that's a lot of revenue to lose. And the question I ask, okay, well, are you going to sort of sacrifice? Because there is going to be a sacrifice where you're probably going to have to sacrifice 80 people. Are you prepared to sacrifice 80 people to save the 60?
So it's like lose the arm to save the patient, isn't it?
But it is unfortunately, yeah, it's going to be hard on the 80 that do have to go. But at least then the 60 have a chance to fight another day. If you don't make that decision, then everybody doesn't fight.
So how do you think people could get closer to that decision? Because there's all sorts of emotions tied up with that as well. But like you say, you said earlier that people need to make that decision fast. How do you think people can get that decision made fast?
I think you need to speak to someone that's not inside the business, outside in, that's outside the fishbowl, and has got a totally unique perspective. Because right now, if you're inside the fishbowl, you're making the decisions with your own frame of reference. Sometimes you need someone to come out and sort of help you make the non-emotional decision. So it's actually being someone that can actually look at it from a different set of lenses, totally impartial, third party, got no axe to grind, that can say to you, listen, why are you doing this? But yeah, you need to have those conversations, and you need to be honest. I think a lot of people are in denial, unfortunately. They've spent 10 years building up their business, and all of a sudden they've seen it crash. And a lot of people haven't been through a recession either. Remember that. I mean, the last one was 08, 09. A lot of businesses have started since then. So this is the first recession that they've actually encountered. They don't know what to do and what to behave. And if we look at 08, 07, 08, I said to you before, the biggest problem was people just was watching the bad show. And they were watching the show. They were watching the show. And by the time they were ready to make a decision, it was taken out of their hands. Because the damage had been done.
Rubbernecking and staring at the car crash, they also crash in their own car because they've
absolutely
elsewhere.
Yeah, we called it back in the last recession. We called it Genghis Khan in the business, where you actually just brutally chop it, and then you do that, but you start again. And the reality is also we probably are going to move the businesses that sort of pick up momentum again and trade again in the future. They're going to trade again very differently because the landscape's changed. That's one thing that we've got to start considering, that perhaps the positions that we once held to be important in a business may not be the positions needed going forward. And until you sort of chop that tree back, you don't have the sort of the space to think, what does it need to look like going forward? And the last thing you want to do is say, okay, let's hold on to the people with the wrong skill set, trying to move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a saying I love, you can't operate in tomorrow using yesterday's thinking.
I think so many things have been learned over the last 3 months. I was talking to a client the other day. They're a pretty large construction firm, about £100 million. They employ 150 people centrally. And I was talking to him about furlough. And I said, is there some people who are out there on furlough that you're thinking, what did that person do? We don't need them. And he said, do you know what? One or two of them, yeah, we've definitely got some. And funnily enough, they were the busiest ones. And they're just busy running around, and just having that being forced to reevaluate in that way is really valuable if you listen to the lesson.
And have they actually dealt with the problem now? As in, are they dealing with it and sort of readjusting their number of people that they're having, or they're waiting for the furlough money to run out and they're kicking the can down the road, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think they're addressing it. Yeah,
good. Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. We've got to sort of call it as it is. It's painful. Recessions are never designed to be happy-go-lucky times.
No.
We've just got to fess up and make sure that the business is restructured to survive.
So is in that that first stage of cutting your cloth, being really realistic with what you think you're going to, how much business you're going to have and keep, and designing the business to service that amount, not the amount that you want. It's a bit like, dress for the body you've got, not the body you want, isn't it? That sort of thing. So if that's the first stage, the next stage being, right, okay, we've stabilized now and we know we're kind of safe, as it were. What's next?
Strategize. You've actually got to come up with a go forward plan and actually work out what do we need to do going forward, because you can't just say, okay, well, we cut the cloth now, let's carry on as we were. So it's actually having a go forward plan, and probably we don't have enough data to know what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to have 2 or 3 go forward plans for different scenarios, map it all out, and then depending on what plays out, you then execute the relevant plan.
So what would you say would be the sort of headline titles of that plan? What areas did that need to cover?
Well, I think you've got to look at, I use 4 areas: people, strategy, execution, and cash. So first and foremost, your strategy. What does your strategy look like? What does your markets look like going forward? How have your markets changed? Is there going to be a need for your service? I mean, a lot of businesses will come out of COVID, there'll be industries that come out of this not existing anymore because the markets have changed. I mean, you look at something like shopping they're at what, 5 billion debt. They've just gone into administration. Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about the high street dying for many, many years. The reality is it going to recover? Honestly, is it going to recover? You can have all the government individuals pushing it, saying we've got to save the high street. How can you save something where people are not shopping? I mean, at the end of the day, it's the people that make the decision. If they've pivoted online, what are you trying to save? Mm. I mean, that's like just that dumb stupid. Yeah, it's going to be sad to see a high street go, but if it's going, it's going to go. End of. So, and that's the thing. You've got to start thinking, okay, where does my business need to be? How is it going to look? Get the strategy right. Then you've got to think about what kind of people do I need on my team to facilitate that strategy? Have I got the right execution rhythms in place? And more importantly, have I got the cash to support it? I mean, a lot of people went out there, they took the CBIL loans out, they took the business bounce back loan out. And you ask people, okay, what are you going to do with it? Well, we're just going to pay the debts. Okay, good. What happens when you run out of the money? And people are not thinking like that. Oh, we'll deal with that when that happens. Oh, well, that's another taxpayer expense. Mm-hmm. You can't. You've got to have the strategy. The ones that get it right now, that do the thinking, do the working, are the ones that can come out laughing. Because don't forget, recession also can be the best time to build your business. And I'm a firm believer of that. I've got a lot of clients out there right now. We're doing acquisitions and stuff like that because we're able to buy businesses cheap that are distressed. We're also able to buy assets cheap. The next 18 months are going to be a fantastic opportunity to get things at well below current market value. Mm. But you've got to have a plan for that.
So going on to opportunities, because there's always opportunity. What opportunities do you see in the horizon?
I mean, look, that's a really big word, Jeff, opportunities. So if I give you an example of how I'm working with my clients, we're working on acquisitions. So we spent years building up the balance sheet, building up savings, because actually this has been the moment we've been waiting for. This is the moment that I've been using where we're actually going to leapfrog. Mm-hmm. I've got clients, the opportunity, I've got clients that were dealing, let's say they were dealing with merchant groups before. And people were shopping through, like builders and trades were shopping through merchants. Last 14 weeks has given the people the opportunity to learn to shop online. People's habits have changed. We've been building an entire e-shop so that people no longer have to use a middleman. So it's things like that where you've got a lot of opportunity. You just got to look for it and change the way that you operate. So acquisition is a good opportunity. Technology is a good opportunity. I mean, I was in a conversation with my friend in McDonald's. And during the whole pandemic, since they've reopened, because no one wants to handle cash, They're like operating at 90% plus cardless.
Mm.
Well, the question is going to be what needs to happen to shift it to 100% cashless now. If you look at sort of contactless, cardless sort of technology now, why would you want to take the last 10% cash? That last 10% is actually re-educating your customers to shop differently. The amount of costs that they can save by flipping to 100% cashless is enormous.
I haven't had cash for 4 months, I don't think.
No, and here's that interesting thing. You're not using it. You see, you're already changing.
Yeah. And
there's
I
that
can
danger.
buy ice creams from the ice cream van with it now because they've just been forced to.
But there's a danger because there's some stuff we've always done, then we should always keep it.
Yeah.
No, right now it looks like it's the ideal time to chuck it to the wall and actually, no, let's re-educate, let's move forward.
Yeah.
So there's loads of opportunities.
I think it's about
provided we can think differently.
Shifted, isn't it? Seeing what's shifted, seeing what's new, what's not being serviced. Like just a couple of days ago, they announced pubs reopening, for example, and they talked about you have to order from an app. Now, whoever is already in that business, it must be rubbing their hands with glee at the moment. But thinking about, I was instantly thinking about it, thinking, right, I'm sat in the beer garden. I don't need to go to the bar. I can just order and pay. Someone will bring my drinks out. Why did that not happen 10 years ago?
Because we were holding on to an old way of working. You're absolutely right. And you know what the interesting thing is, when you look at mobile devices, they're accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
Even people that don't have money seem to manage to have a smartphone.
Yeah.
So when you look at the whole sort of shifting on, yeah, absolutely. And you know what it probably will get rid of? It will get rid of a black market. So the whole old cash market, so to speak, that's going to rapidly diminish.
Mm.
So you won't have that black market anymore, where people are perhaps avoiding the taxes and all that. So it should be a good thing for the government also.
So in terms of the recession, we're looking at a recession for, how long? A few years?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It depends on what kind of recession we're going to have. People are talking about a V, a U, it could even be an L, which is where Japan ended up, where it just absolutely crashed and then flatlined for a very long time. Could be a W. I mean, none of us know. I would say what we need to do is be optimistic about the future while being prepared for the worst.
Mm.
So I think what we shouldn't do is say, oh God, we're going to be a 2-year recession. Let's just put our business on hold for 2 years, because that's going to be the worst thing.
Yeah.
And we need to be prepared we need to be looking for the opportunities, because businesses may come out of their recession quicker than the economy comes out of its recession. So the two don't necessarily go in parallel. But we've just got, my advice to all entrepreneurs out there is you need to have a frame of reference. You need to have a frame of reference to make decisions from. The only way you're going to do that is by becoming business savvy and actually getting business educated. And this is the time we need to really sort of be learning.
Mm.
Yeah, we've got to be learning. We've got to be expanding our frame of reference. We've got to be able to make better decisions.
So you see it as it is, not better than it is, not worse than it is, but exactly as it is, and make your decisions from there.
Yeah.
So is there any thoughts to the mindset that people are going to need to have for that period of 2 or 3 years of what kind of they need to be focused on their resilience, or their where do you think people need to be?
You need to, I always refer to the Stockdale paradox. So you need to be realistic. You really do need to be realistic about the gravity of the situation that you face. But you need to surround yourself with people that will positively help you transition through this. Because unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of naysayers out there, a lot of negative people, because they're in an awful position. They're going to want to drag you down to their position so they feel less bad about themselves. So you need to stay away from all those sort of bad news mongers out there. because it ain't going to do you no good. What we need is good old-fashioned positivity, surrounded with really good, competent people, and fight our way out of this. We need a let's fight our way out of this mentality.
Love that. Great way to finish off that topic. Thanks, Peter. We're going to do another podcast with you. The listeners will get it in a week. We're going to do it in about a minute's time. So thanks for being on this one, and I look forward to having you on the next one.
Thank you, Jeff. And thanks all for listening today.